Joining us now on Footy First, it is one of the Canadian national team members who ventured over to Qatar, played in the World Cup, also midfielder for TFC, Mark-Anthony Kaye. How's it going today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Really appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. We've been following the TFC preseason and now first two matches. What's the atmosphere around the team right now?
Yeah, obviously, we had a really good preseason, gave us a good amount of time to reconnect with each other, create better understanding and chemistry on the field, get guys more comfortable with how we're trying to play. So that was really important. Obviously, looking back at the first two games of the season, we would obviously want the results to go a different way. DC was a completely different game than Atlanta. In both games, there's a common theme of when we've gone up and then conceded goals. So we've understood that there needs to be a little bit more understanding in those moments of what we need to do to keep hold of a lead. But it's been a positive start to the season in the sense of how we want to play, especially considering the last game in Atlanta. We understood that last year defensively we weren't too solid, so it's been a big thing to try and shore up the back line and stop allowing so many goals in. So I think in Atlanta we really showed the resilience to compete and defend and make it difficult for teams, but now we need to add the attacking part and allow our attacking players to start scoring goals and creating more opportunities. So 2 games into the season, not the best start, but from a footballing standpoint, we have some really good ideas, and it's just about continuing to work on them.
That's great to hear that the team is still so focused on the overall goal. I want to focus in a little bit more on your career before we move forward. And this is now your second time being with TFC. Do you feel any added pressure playing for a Canadian club as a Canadian player?
I wouldn't say pressure. I think, there's a responsibility for us to go out there and give it our all every day, every game, understanding that, we're playing for our hometown. If you think of me, Oso, and Richie, 3 prominent Canadian players on the team that we grew up in this area, so we know what it means. We know what football means to this city, so we want to do as much as we can to continue pushing it in the right direction and bringing TFC back to the top of the mountain where we know we deserve to be. So I wouldn't say it's pressure, it's more responsibility, and we've taken that responsibility on, and we're happy to suit up every weekend. So yeah.
I like the way you put that, responsibility. It's probably a better word than I used. In conversation with Mark-Anthony Kaye, and you joined the club last year in July, around the same time as the Italian duo of Bernardeschi and Insigne joined the squad. After you joined, the club went on a pretty nice run of picking up points in 8 of 11 matches. Can you talk about kind of how the atmosphere was around the club at that point, how excited you could feel the guys in the squad, even just the fans outside were, bringing you as well as Insigne and Bernardeschi in around the same time?
Yeah, you could feel a huge shift, I think, that the club was looking for when, a bunch of us came in at that time. We really felt like we had the right pieces to end the season on a high note and get into the playoffs. We knew it was going to be difficult. We knew that you needed to be near perfect in order to do so. But with the talent that was brought in, with myself included, I felt like we had the tools we needed to get the results. It's unfortunate with injuries and stuff, but I do remember that game, Charlotte at home, when we all played, and just the atmosphere at the stadium was unbelievable. It was like almost like it was a season opener. It was like the first game of the season. So you could definitely feel that there was a shift at the club, and that's what the management were looking to create. And now it's about us making sure that we continue pushing that movement in the right way and that we get the results that the club wants us to get.
I'm glad you brought up the management, because my next question rolls kind of nicely into that. I mentioned earlier this is your second time with TFC, but this is also your second time playing under Bob Bradley, as you were playing with him at LAFC as well. Have you seen a different mentality on his coaching style in between LAFC and now with TFC?
I think at LAFC we had a group of some experienced players, but also a larger group of younger players that were relied on more heavily when we were at LAFC. And, we were learning a new way of football and taking in ideas really quickly. And, there was a lot of coaching being done because we were all young, and needed to be coached. I think now Bob understands the team they've been able to create has a lot of experience that can take ownership on the field in certain situations and know how to deal with certain things when they come up. So the coaching style hasn't changed, but I think his idea of how he wants the team to engage with each other and how he wants us to kind of, the word I use is ownership, take more ownership on the field to solve problems is different than when I was at LAFC, because you look at the locker room we have maybe one of the most experienced teams in the league, when you look at our starting 11. So, not a big coaching change, but more of putting the responsibility on the players to really figure out ways to find results in certain moments and be able to be cleaner. But Bob's football ideas are the same, and I love that I'm able to be with a coach who I get along with very well.
Is it weird to have Bob's son on the team as well? Obviously, Michael being the captain. Is there any odd interactions between the two of them in training, or have they just kind of seamlessly done the father-son to coach-player transition?
Yeah, honestly, if you didn't know they were, father and son, I don't think you would be able to see any difference in their relationship. They're very professional when they step on the field, and they demand the same amount of respect and, high standards from each other. So for me, I've known Michael for a long time. He was there when I was at the academy, so I know what he's all about. And then, I went on my own different path and ended up connecting with his dad at LAFC and figured out what he's all about. And they're very similar, but at the same time, very different. And like I said, the respect is the biggest thing. I think in order for any work relationship to work, there has to be respect, and they definitely show that a lot.
In conversation with Mark-Anthony Kaye, TFC and Canadian midfielder, the Canadian or the midfield trio that you guys have currently running with TFC of you, Oso, and Bradley, it's one that has a lot of history in it. And I want you to talk about maybe how that history and knowing these guys for as long as you have has helped you in your career, and what the difference was when you went to LAFC and then subsequently Colorado as well, and how that is kind of nice to come back to.
Yeah, the relationship I've had with Oso, different than the one I had with Mike. Oso, always looked up to him as a player of what he was able to do, his ability to influence games in different ways. We kind of came to TFC at the same time, and I went to the academy and he moved to the first team. So I've always been fond of him and just watching his rise in the league and what he's been able to do to put Canadians on the map. I really think he was the first one to do it. And it really inspired me to help, Canadians get a better rep in the league. And so to be able to watch him and then now be able to play with him and play with him at the national team, there's a huge mutual respect between us. We really understand how each other want to play. He demands the best out of me. And I think that's the biggest thing between the three of us is we respect each other so well that we can just go straight to the other person and tell them honestly how things need to change or what we think without without thinking the person's not going to take it the right way, which I think is huge for development and pushing a team in the right direction. And then, Oso and Mike have known each other for the longest time. So their relationship I can't speak on, but it's definitely something where they understand each other. Probably don't even have to speak to know where the other person's going to be on the field. And then with Mike, it was the same thing. He came to TFC when I was already there, and, just his leadership role, his ability to assert himself at this club and demand, a change in the standards and getting people to be the best professionals every day and have high training level and intensity, was something that I wanted to mimic as I grew in my career. So to be able to be with them now is amazing, and I love how everything's come full circle. And then, my time at LAC was different. I had younger guys around us. We were all trying to make a name for ourselves, and it just worked really well. The dynamic we had in the midfield there, high pressing, high intensity, and it worked. Football changes. I don't know if the same three midfielders would do as well right now in this league. Things change and players get better, and you have to adapt. And then in Colorado, it was a different kind of idea of how we wanted to play. And it was less about, the midfield relationship and more of the overall team relationship. So I'm definitely happy to be on a team where the midfielders have a little bit more responsibility to make sure everything is clicking. They're kind of the engine of the team like it was at LAFC.
Absolutely. In conversation with Mark-Anthony Kaye, and you mentioned Oso being one of the first Canadians to really make a mark in the MLS from a growth perspective. Obviously, D-Row and those guys before coming back to the league is a little bit different. You guys have grown so much on the national program over the past 5 years, and obviously it showed when you got the opportunity to go over to Qatar. Kind of tell the fans, what was that experience like for yourself, just being in Qatar with the boys, with the squad, and what it was like to do it with guys that you've kind of grown through the system with?
Yeah, no, it was an amazing experience. It's something you dream of. I'm sure every young soccer player in the world dreams of playing in the World Cup. And it was a far-fetched dream for us Canadians growing up here in the soccer structure that was created. But, we really believed and dug deep and went on our own paths, which I think is the special thing. We all took different paths to lead us back to the national team. But getting over there was just an amazing feeling, amazing accomplishment to look around the room and see all the guys who have different stories, similar to yours, but different in their own way. And this brotherhood and a group of guys who, made each other's dreams come true. You'll never forget those players. So that was a beautiful experience of just being there. And then the idea of playing against top teams in the world, that's how you want to test yourself. That's how you want to remember your career. And I was just very grateful that I got minutes in that World Cup. And, I worked really hard to be able to put myself in a situation like that. And, we'll take what we learned from it. It was definitely bittersweet emotions, obviously, because, we're all playing in a World Cup. We're excited. We're on the big stage. Our family's there. Canada's there. The country is watching. But at the same time, we're competitive. We want to win. We want to get out of our group. We want to feel even more proud of where we are at the end of the World Cup, So I think it was a good introduction, but we're definitely really hungry for 2026 and definitely leaving a bigger impact on the world stage.
All right, before we go, I just got to ask, do you have any vivid memories from that time in Qatar, something that you're going to take with you forever?
I think the best memory for me, it was definitely when we scored, when Alfonso scored against Croatia. Just the amount of emotions running through my body at that time, just sprinting over into the corner. That was a goal for the entire country. That was a goal for every person who sacrificed the last 5 years, staff, people who worked at the CSA, everyone to get us to that point, family members, wives, sons and daughters who missed out on times with their fathers because of how long the journey was. That goal was just for everyone, and to experience that in person was a gift. So that was definitely the best moment.
I love it. I don't think we can end on any better note than that. Mark-Anthony, really appreciate you taking the time today to join us, and we wish you luck the rest of the season.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
You as well.